Larry, I just finished a video with Brian Wang, the futurist, the guy who actually has a reputation for being able to predict the future.
And he's damn good. I mean, he really,
Yes.
he really is good. I
And
like Brian. Yeah.
by the end of that video, actually we did four of them, two for his channel and two for mine. And by the end of those four videos, we said this, Larry, the future seems to be arriving.
Yeah. Yeah.
After this last 8 days, the future seems to be almost in the palm of our hand. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I was in a call this morning of, uh, some futurists, I mean, investors actually. And we were talking about all that is going on right now. I mean, between Elon and his rockets and, what's happening in AI and, you know, you just get a sense that the world is changing rapidly. And then I listened to a podcast on the drive about, what's happening to the world, global population.
Oh, yeah.
And, the global population, globally, the population decline has begun
On a total basis, or do you
on
mean
a total basis.
really? It wasn't supposed to happen until 45. What's going on?
It's in train.
Wow.
The only the only part of the world where the decline is not already built in,
Mhm.
where it's either going to start in, X number of years or
Right.
it's begun, is sub-Sahara Africa. And they can't tell for sure because the numbers, they can't get the numbers. They
I
don't they don't have the census numbers. But if you go, I mean, South Africa, I know, has already begun the decline. The
Oh,
decline is on the horizon. It's within the next 10 years, 10 or 15 years that the actual decline will become. But we already know from the number of births per person or per woman
right,
that the decline is kind of gonna start. We know that they're under the birth rate necessary
right.
to continue growth. But that's the case now globally. That's the case now globally. So the decline is built in. It's already going to happen. And here's the interesting point that there's no case in history where a decline has begun and it's been reversed.
Right, right.
So that's pretty frightening.
It's a pretty interesting kind of the kind of stat where you can see the future and you're 90 something percent sure that is the future. And then
That's
what
right. And
happens?
it's interesting that there's only one large country that is a out that doesn't actually show the potential for show this decline happening or show the birth rate under replacement value. Only one major country.
Yeah,
Guess which?
I would have thought maybe like Egypt or one of the Middle Eastern countries. No.
No, the whole of North Africa and the whole of the Middle East. The birth rate is below the growth rate.
Okay.
The major country just happens to be the United States of America.
Oh, but I thought our natural birth rate is already under. It's just because of
Yeah,
immigration.
but our immigration
Right,
rate
right,
is
right.
making up for it.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
Some of that is even legal immigration.
Even yes, even some of it even is.
But this argues for a very a, a very focused and aggressive immigration strategy.
Right, right.
We need to be bringing 2 to 4 million people into the country every year, but through a proper immigration process,
Right, right.
not through this, if you make
Random.
it across the border, you're in.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So you've been on the road all last week. Cern has also been on the road all last week. He says he recorded zero highway interventions between South Florida and Calgary. And I think he had maybe 3 or 4 city interventions, and some of those probably he didn't have to intervene. What was your experience like?
I had more interventions than he did. I may be a more cautious driver. It's possible. I'm a lot older than he is. But I did have a good friend. I made a good friend from Norway. I don't want to dox. I don't want to mention his name
Okay.
because I haven't checked with him if he's okay with it.
Sure.
But and I will ask him. But I met him at a charge. We were in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's very unfair, isn't it? We were in a small town in Texas. We were both charging. We were both on our way to Boca Chica. He had his young son with him, a lovely young man. He was all of 9 or 10. And he was on his way to Boca Chica to see the rocket.
Yeah.
And we got talking, and he'd seen a Cybertruck, but he's never been in a Cybertruck because when it came to Norway, they could look, but they couldn't touch.
Yeah.
So I said, look, let's meet up in Boca Chica, and I'm happy to let you try the car out. Well, we did meet. He came to meet me. I stayed in Brownsville the first night, and I let him drive us all the way to Boca Chica, and let him try FSD, and we became firm friends. And then he drove me around for the next 2 days as my chauffeur.
Your chauffeur in your chauffeur-driven car.
Yeah, my chauffeur-driven Cybertruck.
Right.
And he tried FSD, and he's a very good driver because he lives in Norway, and he lives, in the fjords, on an extreme slope, where they get 20 inches, 30 inches, 40 inches of snow in the winter.
Yeah.
They get terrible, road conditions, and so he's an outstanding driver. He really understands, how to drive in rutted roads, and the road to Boca Chica is one of the worst roads you can imagine. And the roads, in Brownsville are really bad. Anyway, so he also had 2 or 3 interventions.
Okay.
So and some of them were very real. So one where the Cybertruck got so close, we were 2 cars turning onto a ramp, one next to each other. The one was a truck and we were the car, and it looked as if we were getting so close at the angle that it would have taken the mirror off.
Oh.
And he had to intervene very quickly. And then I did mention the few highway interventions I had on the way there. And on the way back, I had only one intervention that I can recall.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, right now, 12.5.5 has not a problem, but they've been incredibly cautious about speed. So you can set your speed limit to 75.
Right.
But it'll, you have to actually prod the accelerator, the gas pedal, to get it to actually get up to 75. And then it'll start winding itself back. And other than that, I have no problems with it. And it's amazing that it's getting really good about parking lots, getting into the parking lot and getting positioned for the parking. You still have to press the button to tell it to park. But other than, it'll actually drive up into the parking lot, position itself in a parking space, and then, the drive is done. And then you have to tell it to park.
Right.
So you can see it's going to be, very shortly. Anyway, I can't give you, letter and book about this or that intervention, but the product is, sorry.
In general, you would say we're getting very close, maybe closer than most people think.
Yeah, I think we're at a point now where it could definitely be used for driver assist for people with eyesight impairment, particularly night eyesight impairment, and it is outstanding for very long trips. I mean, I did 3,000 miles in 5 days, which is it isn't the longest trip I've ever taken,
No.
but it was certainly the easiest trip I've ever taken.
Right.
Far better than any of the earlier trips.
Yeah, well, we do have NISTA again, jumping into the fray and saying that they want to learn more about how the car does or the vehicles do in when you have impaired vision of the cameras.
Yeah.
I said this morning on my show, gee whiz, I'll bet you it does better than a human in those
It
situations.
does. It does. I tested that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because I drove into the sun, into the rising sun, and into the setting sun,
Hmm.
because you travel east and west along the Gulf Coast.
Right.
From when you go from North Carolina, you travel due south, well, southwest of south or southwest until you hit Georgia, and then once you get South Georgia, you travel pretty
Hmm.
much westward until you get to well, west of Houston, and then you drive south.
Mhm.
So I had several sunrises and several sunsets,
Mhm.
and I'm used to them because I've done that on I-40 several times on my West Coast trips.
Mhm.
Um, and I-40 is east to west as well. So I would say it is, I will tell you that hardware 4 is dramatically better than hardware 3.
Hmm.
Those cameras really do very well
Hmm.
against extremely bright lights.
Hmm.
Hardware 3 doesn't do as well, but it does pretty good.
Mhm.
I would say it is significantly better than the human. Significantly better.
Right, right, right. Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. And moreover, you've got 8 of them instead of 2, and they're positioned all around the car rather than just the distance of a nose.
Yeah, well, that's true, but the real issue is when there's a car or a pedestrian or some, thing
Mhm.
directly in the orb of the sun.
Right.
And the question is, does it distinguish that, or really at the edges of the sun,
Mhm.
and does it distinguish that? That's really the question.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I guess the argument is radar is unfazed by that, and certainly LiDAR is unfazed by that. So it is an open question.
All right. Well, the other thing that happened in terms of regulations this week, actually, there was 2 more things. There was Europe, but I'm not sure we'll get into Europe unless you want to. Newsom, Governor Newsom says today that he is backing Elon in the SpaceX showdown with California. So there you go. Governor Newsom.
Yeah, I think honestly, there are 2 aspects to that. The one is legally, these people have no standing to do what they did. If you listen to what they said, it's extraordinary. It's a pure political. By the way, the FAA situation is not over
on,
because the FAA administrator, the head of FAA, flat out lied to Congress. If you go onto SpaceX and you go onto their blog and you read what they say about FAA, and if you see that FAA did give them the license,
Mhm.
2 months earlier than they claimed that they were going to do 2 months later, you'll see that the FAA acknowledged and recognized that what SpaceX said was correct.
Wow.
And that means what the FAA administrator said was a flat out lie. And I raised that issue in relation to Newsom backing Elon or backing SpaceX against the board, the commission, I should say.
Yeah.
Then you can see that whatever the FAA administrator said aligns with this political, witch hunt approach
Ah.
to regulation by the California body, and now it's clearly at the political level of the FAA.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a showdown, and I think a lot depends on what happens in this election.
Yeah, yeah, probably so. Although I said I wasn't going to talk about Europe, but the EU thing was the most worrisome to me because I felt like I felt more helpless rather. Like, what can I do? At least in the United States, I can vote, I can encourage others, but it seemed like with the EU taking these extra legal steps, that you're kind of left like, well, okay. But again, if we get the right decision in the fall on November 5th, maybe the new president will pick up the phone and talk.
Oh, there's no doubt he will.
Yeah,
There's
no,
no doubt. And in fact, I can't see why, even if Trump is not elected president, I can't see why any president of the United States wouldn't pick up the phone. I mean,
I understand.
it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And in any case, I don't think the EU would do it in the end. I think that the threat is empty because, there's the High Court of the EU. I forget the name of that court, but they would never allow the commission to enforce that kind of approach, that kind of extra legal approach.
Yeah, yeah. In general news today, economic news today, 𝐒𝐭𝐿𝐵𝐼 is out. You know how much I enjoy his content, not necessarily his analysis, but he says, breaking, the median value of U.S. consumer stock holdings spiked. You saw that to 250,000. So median, I always prefer other than median, but that's okay. This is a number that has been tracked. 250,000 is the median amount of stocks owned by a family. I guess it's family. It wasn't really clear with his family or individual. He says, over the past 12 months, this amount has doubled from 125,000 to 250. This is according to a University of Michigan consumer survey. In 2010,
Is that the median of US population who owns stocks, or the median of the whole population?
Yeah, so those are a bunch of different questions that you could ask. The only thing I would say is whatever it is, it would be the same thing each time. So at least in terms of directionality, it would be important that it's doubled in 12 months.
Which would argue that the median American family own a large portion of the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, they would. That's true. That
because that's the only stock that's doubled in that period of time.
Right. And or that they've put more in. So I would think this, you got both going on, that people are going in.
Well, wouldn't that come in into the savings rate, which hasn't gone up by that far much? In fact, it's gone down.
Well, remember they changed it last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. They said the savings rate was at 2.9 and they changed it to 5.8 or something, 4.8 or 5.8. I can't remember what, but they revised that number. They're revising all the numbers, Larry. It doesn't matter what the number is, they're revising it.
Yeah, it's just a joke. Yeah.
They even revised the number of murders. It's like somebody said, how can you not get the number of murders right? It's like there's either dead people or they're not, and they were either murdered or they're not. But the FBI completely revised the percentage increase in murders over 22 to 23. From -2 to +4 or something like that percent.
Yeah, and the problem is that if you then post that, then everybody attacks you saying, no, it's down, because they don't look at the revision. Yeah. Yeah, this revision business is, it completely saps one's trust in any number that they put out. Should we wait for the revision before we comment?
Yeah, so the doubling in 1 year is pretty fascinating, but since 2010, just 14 years ago, it is 5 times as much. Yeah. I don't know, again, whether that's inflation adjusted or not. They don't say in this article.
It's not possible to be inflation adjusted.
You couldn't inflation adjust it? Yeah. Okay. If you have a median, Anyway, listen, we'll worry about that another day.
Could it have gone up 5 times without it, and after inflation adjustment?
That's the question. Yeah,
very hard to imagine.
So equities account for 48% of US householders' net worth. That is the highest since the dot-com bubble. So this is when he said that, when he adds that in there, I'm thinking that's why there's been some transfer of wealth from other holdings into equities, trying to catch the NVIDIA run, trying to catch, some of these other, run-ups that we've had this year. And it's been, as you mentioned, this Magnificent Seven, tremendous year. So people might be moving money out of bonds, moving money out of commodities, whatever, but heavily, maybe even
The average household doesn't own bonds, and the average household may have bank balances, and that may have moved their bank balances, but if you look at the savings rate went through the roof, of course, in
yes, right.
22, but the savings rate's been pretty low to negative, actually.
Mhm.
And so, oh, my light just went off. Well, I'll have to put.
Well, you
put
have
my-
it's Brian White says that's the way it's supposed to look. A shadow on half your face.
Yeah, but not quite as much of a shadow. Should I fix it, or should I just leave it?
You're fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it does. I think we need to dig into this for next week and try and get some real numbers. I think I'll look at Federal Reserve numbers before I listen to, I don't know. We don't know what he's quoting.
University of Michigan, and it's a consumer survey. So you can
Ah,
get some you can get some phone calls that maybe a little odd or a little different, but still the directionality. And if you've been doing it since at least 2010, again, you have to take a little credence in the directionality. Anyway, the point I was going to make is this is the potentially more evidence. And this was a big article this morning. I'm not going to go through it all again. I talked about it this morning on my show. Big article. I want to say it was Business Insider, maybe, talking about the two economies. And basically, you've got a bunch of folks that have made a huge amount of money in their house, a huge amount of money in the stock market, a huge amount of money on other investments, and then you got the rest of the country that's sitting there can't pay their bills. So when you're looking at a median, of course, a median could say, "Oh, all of these people way more than doubled in the last year, but these people over here didn't go up at all." So
right.
the two economies, I think is hopefully will be addressed as the productivity improves next year. Maybe we'll start to see the rest of the folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it bears looking at quite closely. This multiple, this two, this two-tier economy is really bad for everybody.
Yes.
It's bad for those at the top and it's bad for those at the bottom. And, it's not the fault of the people at the top, it's not the fault of the people at the bottom, but it definitely is indicating that, we've had some serious problems. And I think the biggest problem was shipping all those jobs overseas. I think we didn't understand that the extreme difficulty that we put the economy, the extreme stress we put onto the economy when we shipped all manufacturing overseas and kept only services in the United States. And so, and not only, of course, not only did it cause this tremendous discrepancy, but at the same time, it also, threatens our strategic position.
Right. Yes. Again, I'll mention the Brian Wang video. I think it'll be on his channel on Next Big Future, not on my channel, where we talk about a bunch of the different strategic situations right now with one, Larry, that I think you'll find interesting. I'll use it as a teaser. The United States now has, because of Elon Musk, has an absolutely unassailable strategic advantage in communication through space. There's nothing more important in war than communications, and we now have this massive array of satellites in space that gives us worldwide availability for the troops to talk to the commanders and for the logistics people to be able to talk to the troops on the ground. It's unbelievable what that means in terms of any type of warfare. It doesn't matter whether it's traditional or the new warfare with drones or whatever. And then in addition to that, economically, as Brian points out so clearly, having phenomenal communications is an economic benefit in
Absolutely, without doubt.
so many.
Absolutely, without doubt. But the one area that we are really strategically impaired is in drone warfare.
Yeah, yeah.
We have not, we built these gigantic and very expensive drones, and we're missing the sort of mass drones, and it's a serious problem.
I agree. I
It's a
agree.
serious problem.
Yeah.
And, there's opportunities to actually supercharge that, but you're right about the communication, and it's very important. And, that communication is what saved Ukraine from being rolled over in the first first couple of weeks of the war. In fact, the first couple of months of the war, if not the first year of the war.
Right. All right. So we're 2.5 weeks away, Larry. I'm almost exactly to the minute right now because we're 3.5 days of the next week. The polls widening, especially the 7 states, widening every day almost, going in favor of Trump. The betting polls are going further and further in favor of Trump. 21%, I think, difference right now in favor of Trump. The overall national number has stayed fairly flat at somewhere around 1.5 in favor of Harris. What are you seeing? What are you thinking? What's your analysis, with or without your personal view of the two candidates? What do you think it looks like now going into it from a poli-sci standpoint?
Yeah, one would have to say that Trump definitely has a significant, impetus. I just think that 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks actually, is a lifetime. Now, everybody's voting already.
Yeah.
My wife voted today. I'm going to try and vote tomorrow. No, Monday. So I think the mold is kind of set. I mean, anything can happen, and then then there's a fairly large number of people who will vote after anything happens.
Right.
But I don't understand why Harris did that Fox debate. It was a disaster for her. I just don't understand. I mean, the ABC interview was bad enough.
Yeah.
Why would she have agreed to a Bear interview? I mean, he was fantastic.
So Brett is not a conservative.
No. But
so I think that's what she thought. I think she thought that it would be okay that he's a known liberal, old-fashioned liberal, old-time liberal, but I think she thought maybe she could weather that one. It wasn't very pretty.
No, it wasn't pretty, and really kudos to him. He was amazing. I like Brett Baer a lot. I think that you call him an old-fashioned liberal. I think he's an old-fashioned. I think he's a Reagan Republican, honestly.
Well, yeah, of course that's changed, hasn't it? Well, I've as a poli-sci guy, I love poli-sci. My poli-sci professor told me I should take it up as a living.
You should have, yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that I've been noticing is this massive switch, this realignment of the parties. You're seeing it at the top with the Kennedy and the
extraordinary. But it's happened before. It's happened before in history. I saw it happen. I was around when the Democrats had this massive majority in Congress.
Yeah.
And they they were the ones that were maintaining, the whole, racial
Right.
divide and blah, blah, blah. And they had the Southern Bloc and they relied upon the Southern Bloc. And so they let the Southern Bloc do, what they will. And then, with Lyndon Johnson, it switched, on a dime.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Lyndon
And
Lyndon Johnson, who had blocked the civil rights law
yes,
when
yes.
Eisenhower was in power.
And and then they passed all this liberal legislation that,
Yeah.
decimated the families of, of most of the Northeast black populations, just decimated those families and the Southerners
Right.
as well. And, because so we know what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
so it was just very bad.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it'll be interesting to see how it all winds up in a few weeks. Let's see where the markets
And
are.
your prediction is a Trump victory?
Well, right now he's got the momentum. Let's put it that way. I like to watch 2 or 3 games over the weekend on football. And when your team is ahead by 2 touchdowns going into the second half, you're like, well, we've got the momentum. And sometimes you point out that momentum shifts and you get this shock at the end. But boy, I'm trying to figure out what Kamala has left to pull out of her kit
I
bag.
think I think he's closer to a 1 touchdown lead myself, but I
Okay.
don't think it's 2 touchdowns.
I was just using an example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wasn't trying
I'm
to.
just kidding. I'm just kidding with you.
Well, the Dow was up 36 today. The Nasdaq was up 115. S&P
Wow.
was up 23. And Tesla squeaked out a loss of 19 cents. So, so if you put that in percentage basis, you had the Dow up 0.09, Nasdaq up 0.63, S&P up 0.40, and of course Tesla down 0.09. The Magnificent Seven did pretty well, except for Meta, who was also down 0.08, but everything else was up. And the Cathie Woods did well today also. The shock to me, Larry, though, today was the bonds. So the bonds, after reaching 4.1, basically, I don't know that it ever closed over 4.1, dropped for a couple of days. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're gonna get back into normal territory, or where I think it should be normal right now. And then it turned around again. And we ended up today on the 10-year at 4.083. So you're only 1.7 basis points away from.
I think, yeah, it looks like the street is convinced that the Federal Reserve is going to inch back from its aggressive
Yeah.
position.
Yeah, do you think so?
I mean, that's what it indicates. If the bonds are creeping back up and they're holding that 4 handle, they're saying, yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to get. Now, that can change on a dime. A little bit of news on Monday, on Wednesday. This is a very nervous market.
We have the PCE isn't until a week from, no, is it? It must be this. Oh, no, it's a week from Monday, I think. I think it's
Oh,
on Monday this time because the 31st is on. Anyway, I lost track of that. But I don't think it's next week. I had the, yeah, I don't,
the 31st is a ways to go yet. It's
yeah.
13 days. Yeah.
So anyway, and then right after that, you get the election, and then you get the what do you call it? The labor numbers come after the election.
Yeah, but who knows what's going to happen in the election? Do you really think we're going to have a final result on the next day? I don't think we will.
Yeah, I think it'll depend on how fast they count Pennsylvania. And everybody's talking about that Pennsylvania, that Shapiro is going to slow walk somehow. I don't know how he's in control of it, but somehow he's going to try to slow walk the numbers.
Well, there's going to be a microscope on those guys,
Yeah, no kidding.
and how they act and how they behave and so on. And Elon's involved now, so
Right.
it's going to be very hard to hide I can't imagine they can be duplicitous. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe in this kind of, voting interference stuff.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. I mean, who knows?
You
And
don't believe
so,
that there's much of it going on?
look, in every election, I mean, I remember the Kennedy election,
Okay.
that was my first experience of election, but I remember in the Kennedy election that it went on big time in Chicago,
Oh, yeah.
and it was quite open.
Right.
Everybody's quite open about it. You know, just watching the court case that's going on in Atlanta, in
Yeah.
Fulton County in Atlanta,
Yeah.
Georgia, whereas I was kind of dismissive of the whole thing, now when I see the level of corruption, I'm thinking, with that level of corruption, how can they ever count it correctly? I mean, they're not constitutionally capable of counting it correctly. They're so corrupt. I mean, the level of corruption is mind-blowing.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible. Incredible. Yeah.
How they run a county of that nature. Atlanta's a huge city.
Yeah.
It's a very vibrant, very modern city. It's got a hell of a lot going for it. But my God, the corruption it boggles the mind.
Well, one of the other things we watch a lot, Larry, and it's going to have a big impact on inflation, and that is oil. We are back down with a 60 handle again,
Oh,
$69.34,
wow.
Texas Intermediate, and Brent at 73.17. So was it you that said the other day you thought it would be back in the 50s?
Yeah, I mean, it's more than possible. I mean, if Saudi really if they want to teach a lesson, they can teach a lesson.
Yeah, they have that ability. And natural gas was down 4% today to 225. So it is following now oil as opposed to lately. It seems like it's always going the opposite.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it probably doesn't follow oil very closely
Not generally. I'm just saying right now it's really
right now. Yeah.
dropping like a rock. Gold, on the other hand, all-time high, I'm pretty sure. Let me check inside to see if it was. Oops, I hit the wrong thing. Darn it. Now I'm really in trouble, Larry. Here we go. Try it once again to hit the right thing this time. Up 28.90 today, a full percent. Yes, all-time high.
That's a very big leap for gold.
27.3640. So back to your original thinking that maybe we're going to 3,000 here. It's only 10% away.
Yeah.
Yep. And silver up 6.77% in one day today.
Good grief.
To 30.
Do you think somebody's learned Israel's Iran counter-strike strategy?
Maybe that's it. Holy mackerel. They claim they're not going to touch the nuclear capability. I think what they meant was we're not going to nuke it. I think they're going to do something internally to turn.
Here's a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think that Israel's holding off on a counter-strike until after the election?
Oh, there you go. That's entirely possible. Yeah.
Because it would make a huge difference from what
Yeah.
I mean, if Trump is elected and the Saudis line up behind it,
Yeah.
they could destroy Kong Island, no problem.
Oh, yeah. Holy mackerel. That's a thought. I've never heard that one, Larry. That's original with you. I'll remember that one when we're checking out the results.
Yeah.
So silver, all-time recent high. We always have to take into consideration that one spike that was caused by an attempt to control the market.
The Hunt brothers.
But it is a recent high. And then you have the dollar. The rally has paused, but it's still, pretty close to the recent highs. And Bitcoin now finally seems to have some boost under it, up almost 1,500 today at 68,354. So maybe it's fine
It's
to go back.
in sympathy with Trump's improved numbers.
Oh, that could be true. I heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
And now the Trump family has their own coin, right?
It's a scam. It is. Like people who buy that coin can't sell it.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't
Ever?
earn income.
Ever?
No.
They can't sell it ever.
I mean,
Okay. All right. And there is no pre-market, Larry, so we're done. We're
we're
done.
done.
Any last thoughts about the week? And I mean, this has got to be an historic week. I mean, it's really one for the ages. I mean,
Yeah.
not everybody knows it. Do you know? I'll bet you it's on the order of a couple of percent of the population that recognizes what's just happened in terms of automated driving, land, capabilities in terms of space, and capabilities in terms of Optimus and humanoid robots, all in a single week. It is breathtaking.
Yeah. And here's the interesting part. I mean, the Optimus and the FSD and the space, we all knew it was coming.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, it's like we knew this was coming.
Yeah.
We're not surprised, and nobody else is even paying attention.
I know. And for the chopsticks to catch it on the first
I
try.
couldn't believe my eyes. I
I
just
bet
couldn't
you were
believe
just
my eyes.
yes,
Randy, it was breathtaking.
I can't imagine. So, Larry, I'll leave you with one more thought. And if you haven't
Yeah.
seen this video yet, and maybe my crowd hasn't seen the video either, there was a interview last week with the CEO of Eli Lilly. I don't
Yes.
remember his name. You saw that
Yeah.
video?
Amazing interview. Amazing interview.
Absolutely stunning in terms of where we're going in medicine. And so for those of you who like the future, who like to keep abreast of technology, this interview I was ready to buy Eli Lilly stock after that interview.
Well, I do know somebody who's made a boatload of money with Eli Lilly stock already.
Yeah.
Boatload of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They have stuff coming. I mean, the Ozempic or what's it? Ozempic, right? Is that
yeah.
They have a pill form coming. That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's one thing to put a shot in your leg.
My problem with that whole, we don't know yet all the side effects of those semaglutides. We just don't understand it yet. Some of the indications are not great. It tends to cost muscle. Apparently, I don't know very much about the technical. I haven't drilled into it, but I think that Robert Kennedy Jr. has got a real point in some of the things that he said. We treated him like an idiot, like a sort of it was out of left field. But I think that we're beginning to understand that actually, he has some very valid points, and I'm worried about the impact of broad use of those drugs before we fully understand them. But yeah, I mean, from an investment perspective, it's like a home run. It's like a double-header victory, in the critical game of the World Series. Well, you don't have double headers in the World Series, but I mean, you know what it is like winning the World Series.
I did hear, Larry, that one of the side effects is hair loss. Yeah.
Well, I don't have a problem in that regard.
I'm trying to catch up with you, but it's
yeah, we're working hard at
it. All right, sir.
All
I'll
right,
let
young
you
man.
go. And to all of you who have joined us today, it has been great talking to you.